Hi, this is Levent Gürdemir, UTA astronomer and planetarium director. And finally, 2020 is gone, and now we started a new year, and that means a new set of live streams with you. So I am at the Planetarium Theater and Studio with Jim Bader, the program coordinator of the planetarium. And here we are going to cover some astronomy news and answer some of the questions we received in an email with Ask Astronomer form on our website and also our social media. Okay, let's start with plans in 2021. So we just summarized the upcoming events, important sky events. That starts with May 26th, a total lunar eclipse, not visible from North Texas area. Do not look at the sky on May 26th if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This lunar eclipse is going to be visible from the only west coast. So if you're in the California or in Hawaii, you may be able to see it. The three Martian-bound spacecraft will be arrived in February to the surface of Mars or orbit of Mars. So the first UAE's Hope orbiter begins Martian orbit on February 9. So China's mission will begin orbiting Mars. And also NASA Perseverance is scheduled to land on the surface on the February 18th. So nicknamed Percy, carries with the first drone to Mars, and they named the drone Ingenuity, which is a nice name, right? An Arctic annular eclipse is coming up on June 10th. Again, nothing from North Texas. You need to travel all the way to north in the Arctic region, which June may be a good time to do it. You can get like a little bit chilly weather over there. And some places on the East Coast, USA may get a short glimpse, but certainly there is no view from North Texas. Possible launch of the Artemis 1 mission to orbit to the moon, November 1st. This is a possible launch, nothing set yet because a lot of things nowadays are getting delayed. And first use of space launch system will be tested out during that mission if Artemis 1 is launched, and uncrewed Orion capsule will make the trip around the moon and back. Uncrewed, no man or woman on the moon. So the last and maybe the best news about the James Webb Telescope, but let's not hope, let's hope for the best, but probably this launch will be delayed again. I'm talking about James Webb Telescope. So James Webb Telescope is the successor of Hubble Space Telescope. Hubble is an old telescope and needs replaced long time ago. So scientists and NASA and all the agencies involved made a great telescope called James Webb. It is a larger telescope, it is a much better telescope, and it is going to be located far, far away from Earth. It is even going to be passing the moon, and it is going to be located in a point called Lagrange Point, which is very far away. But that telescope was going to launch long time ago. Several years ago, the plan was to complete the design and launch it, but many delays brought the launch back to, pushed the launch to 2021. And hopefully, currently scheduled for the Halloween night of 2021, this telescope will be finally launched in space, but again, it is likely gonna get delayed because NASA is already saying that they already had a lot of delays in the schedule, production schedule, due to the pandemic. So, what are the upcoming events? The media talks about the circle of Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury. I don't like calling it circle because 3 points in geometry doesn't make a circle. It makes a triangle. You can say a triangle of these planets, but regardless, three planets are appearing so close together. I never understand the idea when two planets appear too close to each other in the sky, why there is that big celebration. So there is no reason to celebrate. The planets orbit around the star all the time. So sometimes they appear close. They only appear close from Earth if you change your viewing location to Mars, for example. You move to Mars or travel to Mars, visit Mars. Hopefully one day it's going to happen. But the planets will not appear close anymore. So what is the big deal? There is no big deal on that. Plus, Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury are so low in the sky. If you are looking from North Texas, you can maybe catch it in the final minutes of the sunset, but it is going to be so close to the sky. So let's show it. We have a lot of great capabilities over here. So let's go let the sun down, and it is going to be very, very low in the sky, these planets, and then we can.
It is actually up right now. So I think what we should do is get rid of the atmosphere just a bit.
Well, getting rid of the atmosphere is not a good idea. We cannot breathe without atmosphere.
We're going to have to hold our breaths if we want to choose this a bit. This is a tough one to see. Kind of far-fetched, in my opinion, to bring it up to the public, but it's right over your shoulder. Okay, this is with nearly no atmosphere, and then I'm going to ruin everyone's day by giving them what we would probably see here in DFW.
Gone. So this is called light pollution. That's why we cannot see things in great detail in the sky. So without the existing of atmosphere, I know it's not a desirable condition not to have an atmosphere, but we have a great viewing condition. So it is going to be so low in the sky, something like this, and probably you have a tree or building right over here that you cannot see it. But if you can see it, yeah, there's going to be a triangle in the sky like this, and those are Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury close to each other. That triangle, it's not a alien spacecraft. This is those are planets of our solar system, very normal. If you see something like this in the sky, do not call 911. So there is no.
We get emails, Lubin. I think we will. I mean, the chances are good. A triangle of stars in the sky, that's a definite email about UFOs.
Absolutely. So this is going to be visible in the sky early in the evening hours, right after sunset. You see this in the sky, do not call 911. Call planetarium, and they will tell you what this is.
It's not a circle, that's for sure.
All right, so let's continue with the other article. Mercury at greatest eastern elongation. When? January 24. Wow, this is my wife's birthday. I should better get flowers for her on that day in celebrating Mercury's GEE, G, greatest eastern elongation. So what does elongation mean? So we talked about planets being low in the sky. So whenever they are visible right after sunset or before sunrise, so we get to see them sometimes at a greater altitude. Okay? They go up higher and higher in the sky. So this angle is called elongation angle, which is if we explain it geometrically, the angle between the Earth and the Sun and the angle between Earth and the planet is called elongation. So the greater elongation means the planet is higher in the sky. So Mercury at the greatest elongation means Mercury is visible the highest in the sky, which is only 18 degrees. So not so much, because Mercury is closer planet to the Sun than Earth. It is not going to appear very far away from the Sun. It is going to only separate 18 degrees, so we can see Mercury. So celebrate this by looking at Mercury in the sky. So it is going to be it is 18 degrees from the Sun, but not 18 degrees from the ground. So it's going to be from your horizon, only 12 degrees. Again, you need to find a clear western view. You need to do not cut any trees. I don't like cutting trees, but just you can probably find a horizon view without a tree. If there is a tree in the way, do not cut the tree. Just water the tree with something. Just feed the tree. Those are good for the environment, okay? I don't like cutting trees. So find a western view, open view, and if there's a building, just stay away from the building and find and look for a bright thing in the sky. 12 degrees from horizon, you will find a great visible Mercury. The best way to look at Mercury is using set of your eyes, nothing else. Do not try to look at Mercury with a telescope because you won't see anything spectacular. It is just going to be like looking at a bright light bulb, because the Mercury's surface is very reflective. It is reflecting a lot of sunlight. It is not going to show you the details of the Mercury's surface. It is not like the moon. So you will not see anything spectacular with a telescope. So only spectacular view is going to be some bright thing in the sky 12 degrees from the horizon. So let's talk to you back on January 24th, I guess. All right, so next article is about a Turkish satellite that is going to be launched by the company, American company, SpaceX. So they delayed the launch several times, and finally this Thursday that satellite is going to be launched. I'm not sure if it is the first satellite SpaceX is launching for a foreign country. But the important thing is this satellite was made in Turkey by Turkish engineers, and they are finally launching into space. And it's going to be geostationary satellite. So geostationary means the satellite, if you are an astronaut looking from space, the satellite seems like attached to Earth. It rotates the same rate with Earth. So from a viewing point, you get to see the satellite in the space, in the sky, at the same point all the time. It never moves. So why this is important? If you remember, like, we don't use dishes anymore. Not many people I see use dish TVs. But whenever we use dish TVs, these dish is, those are antennas, and those antennas are pointed to a satellite. So they are pointed to a satellite to receive the signal, and they're like very precise. If you move the antenna a little bit, you lose the signal. So you have to have a satellite just standing there in the sky, so you point your dish antenna to receive the signal. So you don't want your antenna moving all the time with the satellite. So it would complicate the system. So those are using, this system is using geostationary satellite, which hangs there for the reference point from Earth. So if you look at from space, the satellite seems like attached to the planet orbiting around it. So anyway, this is the first geostationary satellite. It's going to serve for many purposes. It is going to be launched by SpaceX from Florida, Cape Canaveral. And Chinese spacecraft, we mentioned about a few weeks ago, just before Christmas time, returned, it landed on the moon. So Chinese robot successfully landed on the moon to do what? To bring the lunar samples to Earth. So, and it did successfully, according to the news release. But we get the information only from news release because I couldn't find any good picture or explanation of the lunar samples, but we know that Chinese spacecraft returned some lunar samples back to Earth. So I'm hoping that they will just do some analysis and maybe find something new, maybe like a new composition of water or something like that, and they will release it. So we are looking forward to receive more information on that. So now let's continue with your questions. So Clayton asks, I heard you talk about stellar nurseries in another video. What are they? I did talk about stellar nurseries in another video. And let's go back our night sky so I can talk about what a stellar nursery is. And you can actually find one, spot one in the evening sky yourself if you turn your detectors, your eyes, to the east direction. So am I in the right place? Because,
Yep.
all right. So,
Different day. This is not tonight. You want to go to today?
yes, let's go today. So I can show you what is visible in the east direction right after sunset. Go back to outside. Let's push all the clouds away. And here is a constellation. This constellation is called Orion, the hunter. So Orion has a shiny belt over here, but also here there is a fuzzy object located. And that fuzzy object is known as Orion Nebula. Nebula is a term for dust in Latin. So this is a stellar nursery. This is a vast amount of dust, and that dust is a star-making dust. Stars made out of this dust. So there are many of stellar nursery locations. We call them nebulae as a plural word. So those are making stars. And the closest one is located in the Orion constellation. Over here, you can even see for yourself tonight. So you won't see something like this with your eyes or small telescopes. This is pretty much like a Hubble Space Telescope picture, but you can see a lot of bright stars inside of this gas, and those are new stars, baby stars, and because that dust contains baby stars, we call them stellar nurseries. Jess is asking, maybe a dumb question. Nothing here is a dumb question. Feel free to ask any questions, but why does the sky turn red during a sunset? That is because the color of the sky changes as the angle of the sunlight changes. And first we need to think about why the sky is blue. Why the sky is blue? Because the sunlight hits our atmosphere. So atmosphere is a layer of gas we call air, right? This is something we breathe all the time. So when the sunlight hits to the air molecules, the sunlight scatters. And only part of the sunlight makes it to ground, and others are scattered off and reflected back in space. When we extract light, some of the light from sunlight, what we get is a blue color. So that's why the sky is blue. But this changes as the sunlight angle changes in the sky, and we know as the sunlight goes down in the sky, the sun, for the sunlight ray, it takes more distance to reach to us. The more distance it travels in the air, the light travels in the air, more it scatters. And more light is actually subtracted and scattered from the light ray. And what happens as the sun goes down is finally red color. First yellow and then orange and then red color. And then sun goes down completely so we don't see it. So it is because of the scattered light rays, scattered and reflected back colors by the air molecules. Jasmine is asking, I want to get into astrophysics. What telescope should I buy? Well, probably you would like to get into the field of amateur astronomy, because that is the field only deals with the telescopes for viewing pleasure. Astronomers and astrophysicists are more like scientists working on their desks or labs to analyze data. So what telescope you should get is depending on your budget and depending on what you would like to do and how long you would like to keep your telescope. So we actually decided to cover a great telescope session next week in the live star stream. Just follow that. But the short answer is if it depends on the budget. If you are going to do like astrophotography, if you are going to take the pictures of the astronomical objects in the sky, your budget should be very big. It should start from $3,000, $4,000, and it only goes up and skyrockets to maybe 10 grand to 20 grand, depending on how fancy instrument you are looking for. There's always question of like, what is the cheapest telescope I can find? Probably there are telescopes sold in grocery stores less than $100. Are they good for anything? Yes and no. You can maybe point those telescopes to the moon, the brightest object in the sky, and you can maybe look at the craters of the moon, which is still amazing, I like doing it. But the problem with the cheap telescopes are the cheap construction. They are lightweight, but they are not very balanced, very easy to use equipment. So it can be frustrating to point the telescope, the small telescope, to something in the sky, even the moon. So that frustration sometimes leads the telescopes ending in the storage for long time periods. And they usually say, well, I really need someone who knows about telescopes, so I can set up my telescope and they can show me things. If you don't want to end up like this, maybe you should not invest in a telescope. My biggest warning is, if you are gifting a telescope, you need to have, probably it will likely be a kid, so you need to have a proper telescope training that you need to give. And that training is, never use your telescope to look at the sun. Because many people on Earth are blinded by the sun because they try to look at the sun with a telescope, with a binocular, with a monocular, with a maybe pair of sunglasses.
Wait, Levin. What if you just put sunglasses on? Shouldn't that work?
No. Well, human eye is not designed to look at the sun. Sun is too bright. Well, there is a part of our eye is called iris. Iris is a tiny lens that shrinks and enlarges depending on the light conditions in the area. Like, for example, if we enter in a dark room, our eyes get bigger because we would like to collect more light in it. And if we go into a bright room, our eyes get dim because the iris dims down all the lights. And then we try to get less light in it because otherwise it would damage the retina. So the guy behind me is so bright, and because it's so bright, if we look at it, we are getting too much light in our receptors in the retina, and it may end up with a retina damage. That means the blindness. We won't be able to see it anymore. So that's very dangerous. And in my childhood, I tried once. Somebody handed me a binocular, and I tried to look at the sun first. I mean, as a kid, I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought it would be cool to look at the sun, how it looks with a binocular. And immediately I felt a extreme heat in my eyes, and fortunately I was able to just take off the binocular immediately in a short time, so it didn't burn my eye. But I was blind for 5 minutes, but I was lucky. Anyway, so let's go and looking at the other questions. We recently learned about stars at school, and my teacher talked about red giant stars. Are there other colored giant stars? Yes. The stars go in stages, different stages, and some of the stars are called, there's a star classification. Like, we like to classify everything, right? We classify cars, for example. We call them minivans, SUVs, and trucks, and mini cars, economy cars, whatever. There's a classification. And there's also classification for the stars too. Depending on their size, we classify them, strange enough, we call normal stars dwarf stars. Dwarf stars doesn't mean small stars. Dwarf stars are normal stars. So, and then the classification goes to, if we go up, there's a giants and supergiants. Even supergiants are classified like supergiant 1As, supergiant 1Bs. So stars, those stars can be in any color because the color is the indication of not the size, indication of temperature. So star can be a giant, and star can be a hot star or a cool star. I know you keep throwing stars at me, and I don't know if there's anything I can find to throw at you, Jim.
We'll just leave
We just left the solar system. Okay, so let's go back to the subject. So red giant is a different thing. Red giant is actually a stage in the life of a star. So, for example, at some, we have different names for the different life stages of humans. We call them kids and, grown-ups and maybe, elderly and things like that. We also classify the lifetime of stars too. So at one point, the stars are going into red giant stage, which is the at the end of the star life, the star is getting an expansion, and that expansion makes the star colder than usual and the bigger than usual size-wise. So this is the stage we call red giant. So let's not mix up the color of the stars and the size classification of the stars and the lifetime classification, life cycle classification of stars. So, there's a other part of the question says, sun really yellow? Yes and no. The sun is a yellow star, but yellow color is pretty much produced by the air around Earth. If we go into space and look at the sun will look more like yellowish and greenish because it's in between. But there's a problem with the green color. So our eyes are the least receptive to the green color. That's why the green color is not, even though it's the most dominant color emitted from the sun's surface, we actually supposed to see the sun green, but we don't see it green because we receive or perceive the green color less than yellow color. So yellow looks like dominant color, so we see the sun yellow. That's a great question. The sun is not actually yellow, but because of how our eyes set to the colors, we see it as yellow. All right. So there are more.
I have to interrupt for a second, Levent.
Yes.
Green sun. Does that have anything to do? Maybe this is ridiculous with green plants. Like all the plants on Earth, chlorophyll is green.
Yes. I mean, I think the evolution of our eyes and evolution of plants are developed for the green color. For example, our eyes and why green is the least receptive color, as we talk, never look at the sun because it's so brightest. I think the eye is designed to protect itself by getting the green color as the least. So if we see the sun, look at the sun, the perception will be the minimum. So yes, I mean our eyes and like the plants and everything are evolved for the sun.
All right, well that does it for our questions today.
Great, so watch us next week because I am going to talk about telescopes. So maybe you can use it as like a telescope buying guide.
Can you show people that? Can you reach back there and grab that telescope?
That's only picture.
I'm sorry.
I cannot grab, but I can hold it. Okay, I'm just practicing my weatherman skills over here. All right, so next week we are going to talk about telescopes. So if you would like to, if you're on the market for buying a telescope, maybe you should listen, because I'm going to talk about the different telescopes with different budgets and different styles, their pros and cons, and you can ask questions during the live stream. So we'll see you next week.